Rally Poland is round 9 of the FIA European Rally Championship, the three-quarters way mark through this year's campaign, and it is the 70th anniversary of the Polish Rally, a former European then World Rally Championship round, reincorporated into the European Championship after its reorganisation back in 2004. But it's a wet Poland that greets the drivers this weekend. Now towards the end of the first day, and things shaping up nicely for a former multiple Polish rally champion. Well, on the wet and muddy stages this morning, we are getting ready now for a rerun of what was stage 3, 6 p.m. local time for Mrongowo 2, which will be the same stage as this morning. And the day so far has been a playground for Frenchman Brian Bouffier. He and his co-driver Xavier Paneri are leading the event, setting a string of fastest stage times in the Peugeot. And the Frenchman, a former Polish rally champion, co-driver lives in Warsaw. The local hero, though, of course, is ex-Grand Prix ace Robert Kubica. And for how long will the rally driver be the ex-Grand Prix driver? I'm not quite sure. Looking pretty wild this morning, really attacking hard from 4th on the road. He's been fastest on 2 stages. Kajtan Kajtanovic in his Ford Fiesta R5 started 10th on the road. First time out in the R5 Fiesta, 3rd after 6 stages, 22.5 seconds behind the leader. And Jan Kopecky starting 1st on the road, championship leader by a country mile, 4th after half a dozen stages today, 41.5 seconds back. Well, I'm joined in the booth by Guy Wilkes, and that 41-second advantage probably isn't going to be fretting Kopecky even one iota.
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's too worried about that whatsoever. He's thinking of championship and also the fact that he chose to run first on the road, which has potentially backfired on him. So it's one of those things. He gambled, I think, on the fact that people may get stuck in the stage. He didn't want to get held up. It's gone away from him.
Well, we're going to be back with live pictures in just a second. Well, we were going on a break. Apparently we are not going on a break, so here is the overview of the area. Again, you can see pretty wet as Jan Kopecky comes through the final few stragglers making their way to the stage start. And as you said, a little bit of a gamble on the conditions, Guy Wilkes, to try and guess where would be the best position to start. And I think he went for, well, we may as well go first because we're not actually necessarily going to have to win this event.
Absolutely right. It's one of those things, it's a catch-22 situation, especially when you know it's going to rain, but you don't know how much that's going to amount to on the road and how much the road is going to absorb and how much it's going to sit on top.
Well, we've heard this before. We may now be going for a break. Who can tell? Ready for the start of the 7th and final stage on day 1 of Rally Poland 2013. Mrongowo is the test, and straight out of the traps, Jan Kopecky like a scalded rabbit. Tyre marks off on the right-hand side earlier in the day, but that has been taped off now to try and keep drivers on the straight and narrow. We saw this stage this morning, Guy Wilkes, muddy, rutted, and it doesn't seem to improve with age.
In places, I would say it probably hasn't, but just looking there, there looks to be a lot more grip than Jan had the first time round. But like I said in the previous program, you know, it's going to be a trade-off. Some places are going to be better for him, some places are going to be worse. So, you know, it just depends where you're running on the road. As we can see, the road is almost trashed, you dare say. You know, it's completely taking a pounding just with the weather and the cars passing over it. So the lottery.
Well, all the cars with lamp pods on, even though you say, okay, well, you know, it's pretty reasonable. It is pretty reasonable, but actually the sky has lightened quite a lot during the course of the afternoon. If it had been as dark as it might have been, cloud-wise, then they might really have needed that. And of course, you try and make sure that you've got all bases covered, and certainly those guys that are starting down in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, an hour from now, they really will be using those lights.
Absolutely, and it also will be very dark under the trees. There aren't many trees at the side of the road now, but there are little forests and woods that they do go through, so if the light does get bad, a lot better grip this time around that corner than the previous time. But I just saw before, when you were speaking, Martin, that the Jan slid wide, used the bank. Okay, you sometimes use it deliberately, but you don't like to use them too hard.
It's always a little bit of a gamble when you're touching scenery, isn't it? Because things may well have moved since the last time you were here 6 hours or so ago. Well, still a lot of standing water around, so clearly, you know, the stage has been filling back up again.
That again is the thing that Jan's probably, it's been a double-edged sword for him. He wanted to go first on the road to try and get ahead of any incidents that might crop up, so he didn't have to pass parked cars or cars that were stuck in ditches. And this time, because there's been such a delay in the stage being run once, obviously the road's got cut up, it's potentially rained or the water's come back onto the road and it's filled the ruts, so he's splashing all the water out for everybody else.
Michał Kosciuszko setting off, car number 2 on the road. So first time out in the Ford Fiesta R5 for him.
You can see there the car's like it's on a railroad, it's just chattering between each side of the ruts. And some places you want to keep the car in the ruts, nearly all the time you want to keep the car in the ruts, but it's so tempting just to try and go a little bit quicker, and as soon as the car pops out, you're on the loose, you're on the slippery stuff, and the car will get away from you.
Again, as you saw in the trees there, looking pretty dark. And there are, as you can see in the distance there, actually some fairly major forests that they're skirting through the access roads in. And it's bumpy and it's rutted and it's nasty. And is that broken right front damper? Right front wheel? No, probably not. Just looked to be chattering a lot there.
I hope for Jan not, but this is the sort of time that you can pick up a puncher. When the ruts get deep, you get down to the base of the road and the rocks are a lot bigger and a lot sharper. And you can see now he needs the lights on. Very tricky conditions, trees right at the side of the road.
And classic spectator viewing as well. Stood behind a tree, right beside the track, getting sprayed with gravel as every car comes by.
You couldn't differentiate between the ploughed field and the road there, could you?
Pretty tough, isn't it? It's kind of all right, not colour-wise, but it's a bit like a snow rally. You know, where does it end? Where does the snow end and the bit you shouldn't be using of snow begin? That's tough.
And this is real difficult light, actually. We said it was bright. Ooh, that was the back end. Just
not a good time to
chasing down the side of the bank in there.
Well, here is our rally leader, third man on the road, Brian Bouffier. Huge result for him, second to Freddie Loix on the Ypres rally. Such different conditions, but in a lot of ways, Guy, we talked about this earlier, very similar discipline to a narrow, sinuous tarmac stage, i.e. there is no room for error. This is very, very tricky.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to reiterate what I was saying about the ruts there, you can see, Brian, lots of input, and that's because the car is reacting to what the car is doing. It's not reacting normally, it's been chattered in amongst the ruts, and the car is actually trying to jump out because obviously, instead of going in a straight line, Brian's fighting the car from trying to slither from left to right all the time. You can see there a lot more input than he would really like to be doing, but he's just having to do it to control the car.
Well, we saw a lot of that on the first trip through this stage as well. Very busy hands.
He'd be good at making pizzas, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
He's got the rally in his hands now to control. You know, he has a decent lead from Robert Kubica, and you know, 17 seconds is not massive, but it's a good lead. He seems to be managing it. He's not trying to extend it, it would seem.
Skidded wide at that little corner. You can see using the pavement there as the apex on the right-hander coming down that little bit of High Street. Tell you what the Cows could do, resurfacing that a bit. Those chips they put down really didn't work.
No.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, he's now in a position where he should be able to relax into this stage a little and, you know, build an overnight lead. He has been pretty much the quickest man through most of the conditions.
And Brian isn't really a gravel driver either, so this is really quite impressive for him. Yes, he knows the Polish stages better than anybody else on the rally, but at the same time he was brought up on asphalt stages in France, mountainous stages. You know, Monte Carlo, San Remo is his natural environment, you know, something he would really love to get his teeth stuck into. So, you know, he's definitely doing a fantastic job in an older car as well, we have to point out. The Peugeot is an older car now, and he's just looking to keep it nice and clean and moving from what I've seen at the start of this stage. No big risks. And
like Kopecky, that high revving engine, really aggressive engine note from the high revving Super 2000, normally aspirated 2-litre engine from Robert Kubica. When we go on board with him, he's just started the stage. The turbocharged engine in the regional rally car and in the R5 rally cars as well. Very different. Sounds like it's straining much less, like it's trying much less aggressively, but still producing similar kind of power, if not more, but with better low-down torque.
In the ruts, actually, the turbo will have a greater effect, you know, to be able to control the car out of the corners, and just with that torque, you know, you'll be able to hold it in a slightly higher gear, find the grip better. Although it does look like they're getting down to a good level of grip, it's just the handling, it's the dampers on the car that are going to have the biggest effect at the moment, because the road is cutting up so dramatically. 2.58
kilometres in, he's 3 seconds up on Jan Kopecky, so a second a kilometre. That's a pretty good rate of attack. This is a 25.3 kilometre stage.
Oh, he's just lost maybe a second and a half there.
And actually, bizarrely, the grip there would probably be no worse than it was on the track. He's just, you know, a little bit of momentum, keep your foot in. And
I don't think it had anything to do with the differentiation between the field and the road, like I was pointing out before. I think that was just, like you said, a little bit too much speed.
Pushing hard.
That's where Jan had the moment just there. So he took a little bit of caution there. You could hear him come out the throttle.
Kubica in the inset, a couple of minutes behind him on the roads, now on the stage, and Kubica tied for the lead. So again, Robert Kubica battling for victory here. This is not about the championship for him, it's about winning when he comes out, whenever he comes out in the car. So he's now trying to take the battle at the top of the leaderboard.
Just again, Brian sliding slightly wide there, but we must point out that Robert Kubica had a fairly hefty accident at the start of this week, testing for Rally Poland, and you know, he's had a couple of good accidents in rally cars, and obviously the one that ultimately has cost him his Formula 1 career to date. And so I think he's just probably been very wary and judgmental in this rally, you know, to try and feed himself back in after having an accident.
Well, the good news might be he's got him out of his system already.
Yes.
On the other hand, but I mean, you know, he's up against, we talked about Bouffier's experience, you know, Brian Bouffier, by the time he'd done 2 years of Super 1600, had more rallying experience than Kubica has ever had in his entire life. And so there is that phenomenal learning curve. You know, Bouffier came out of the French Championship. Sébastien Loeb, remember, seeing him in Super 1600 on French tarmac rallying, even before he got into the kit cars and all of that. And you know, the modern era of front-wheel drive road rockets in tarmac rallying form, probably not that different from the way you drive a four-wheel drive car either. And you know, like a lot of drivers will have grown up just spending hours in rally cars. I mean, that's one of the things that he's spoken about this week.
I think he could have been right, maybe about Kopecky having a puncher perhaps.
Well, I was wondering if it was a damper problem, but actually now you can really see the right front damper chattering away there on Bouffier's car as well. It's just the corrugations and the ruts.
It'll be interesting to see, because that's quite a large time loss from the first split, and it's only well, it's 4.5 minutes later. Be interesting to see why.
Now, you'd struggle to think that there can be an option of tyre choice here. It may just be that Kopecky's emptying the puddles for everybody. As simple as that. You know, the ruts have filled up, and he's the one there bow waving all the water out and getting rid of some of that slush.
We haven't obviously been on board with Jan for a little while now, but it doesn't look quite as bad as it did at the start, and the grip does look to be fairly good. Brian looks like he's got the bit between his teeth now, whereas Jan just looked like he was not going through the motions, but you know, he looked like he had his sensible head on definitely.
Well, the only thing that Kopecky can't really afford to do is stick it in a tree, stroke ditch on its roof, or any of those. You know, none of those is an option.
Yeah, which to say about a professional rally driver, you know, sounds silly, but in these conditions, it can so easily and so instantly get away from you if you start to push the boundaries just a little bit too much.
Well, to me, always, that's one of the great thrills of rallying, is you can see where the ragged edge is, because it happens in almost every corner, in almost any conditions. And it's, you know, these things don't go round on rails relatively to a, you know, a tarmac racing car of any kind. And so, yeah, you can really see, you can see the mechanics. You see how it all happens. You see when the driver moves the car, you see, like there, when the stage moves the car, when the car moves the driver, when who was it who was saying a little bit earlier? Yeah, there was a few times we were just passengers, or we were spectators.
Jan.
In the stage. That was Jan Kopecky, yeah. So, well, Kopecky 14 seconds back. No change at that third split, and Kubica's dropped 3 seconds there to Bouffier, who really is flying on, and ought to turn his lights on.
Yeah.
He's still got, he has got them on, actually.
You can just see what I'm talking about there. When you're on the edge, it doesn't take much to have a little moment in these conditions. You know, Jan looked fairly comfortable, whereas Brian is obviously pushing that little bit more and making the time by taking the risks, and it's visible to see.
And look at the speeds as well, you know, he's flat out in fifth and still accelerating hard on the sort of muddy, slimy, nasty track that you'd be pushing it at 30 miles an hour in any other car.
100, hamuj, lewy 4 plus, media, może fi. Do prawy 7, krótki, szczytem, lewy 6, hamuj, 30, prawy 3, fast. 20, lewy 3, fast, późno, szczytem.
You can see the road drying all the time here. I mean, we're on board with Robert Kubica, and
do prawy 6, szczytem, zacisk 4 plus, media.
Yes.
Lewy 7.
So again, from the passenger seat, which is not a view you have, I'm sure, from the passenger seat, the scenery probably seems a lot closer than it does from the driver's seat, because you're just waiting for it to come in.
You always stick the passenger side in the grass and the bushes just that little bit further than you do your own side.
Sure. So this is a long stage, 25 kilometres. And again, right up on the rise on the edge of the track there, you know, another foot or two, and the outside wheel would have dropped off and dragged him into the tree.
He needed the bank. I don't think he was using it. He needed it then.
Yeah. No, he was running up it there. That was that's not the traditional way of using a bank. You use it to brush you back into line. You don't run up it. So yeah, it's pushing very hard indeed. Bouffier running third on the road. Three-time Polish champion, the Frenchman. So certainly far more stage miles in Poland than the local hero Robert Kubica.
Szczyt 80, prawy 6 szczytem, zacisk 5 długi, 20, lewy 4 media, błoto, hamuj, 40, prawy 3 pas, media, udo, 30, lewy 4 minus, wyjście szczytem.
Just see, trying to coax the car around the corner, you know, just had a bit of understeer there, was running wide, came off the throttle, tried to let the tyres get some grip before he did anything, either brake, you know, accelerate or try and turn anymore. Just had to let the speed and the energy come out of the car, just to find something.
The fans all know who's coming down there. You can see them all hanging over the barriers and over the walls and fences of the houses, cheering him on. Very big day for Polish rally fans to have not just, you know, the whole of the Polish Rally Championship field here, but as well, but to have a huge national hero like Kubica. Bearing in mind the cars first started through this stage at 11 o'clock this morning, it's now, what, 20 after 6 in the evening, and they're all still out there. It's been a pretty wet and grim day.
Fast section of the stage here. Oh.
Prawy 7 szczytem, 120, lewy 6 plus media, drzewo, kolejna, do prawy 6 media, 30, hamuj, zgaś, lewy 6 krótki, szczytem, 80, hamuj, nawrót na asfalt, błoto.
This is good fifth gear, sixth gear stuff, isn't it? I mean, this is properly quick.
They're standing on it along there. That's a quick section. Very much like Finland, actually. Very floaty crests. Okay, no jumps in there, but tree lined. Back onto asphalt now.
Yeah, this is only a couple of 100 meters though, isn't it? That cut is getting deeper and deeper.
He has no lights on.
No, he hasn't got a lamp pod on, does he?
No.
You can see just on the edges, he's got the headlights on, but they haven't fitted the lamp pod.
That's why he's in a rush.
Get home before dark. Wonder how many pages of notes they're getting through. Again, you know, this is all part of the learning experience for Kubica, isn't it? You know, as a racing driver, again, he talked about this recently, as a racing driver.
That was very good commitment through there from him. He seems to trust the grip more when it's drier. He's not so sure when it's wet. I mean, okay, Brian was pushing on the wet, but he's done a lot more miles, like you said.
There you go.
But I think people shouldn't underestimate how much actually Robert Kubica has done in a rally car as Jan Kopecky crosses the finish.
Kopecky comes across 16:42.7.
It's a good bit slower than the first run through.
Yeah. Handily, I just tossed those times aside earlier on. I'll have them on a piece of paper. As he comes down, he will talk to our Neil Cole. Fast time on the first stage, 16:01.3. That was Robert Kubica who set the fastest time on first run through stage
of the day. How was it?
Yeah, I think nightmare is not strong enough word, you know. It was horrible. It was much worse than in the first pass. Twice we were out. Once we were very lucky because I thought that we are hitting a big tree. It's just only mud, no grip at all, deep ruts. I think maybe with this car, you know, with this Dakar car, I would be able to drive a little bit faster.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? You know, you get guys like Kopecky coming out saying it's horrible, it's a nightmare, we were just spectators, and some guys coming out going, oh, I've never done anything like it. It was so much fun. It's funny. It's just the driver's nature how you take these challenges.
Robert Kubica seems to have a big
Bull
problem
puncher.
here. I think this is a suspension problem, to be honest. It's very slow. Didn't look like a puncher.
Yeah, he was slowing down, wasn't he? No, it's just the way that the car dragged itself into the corner. And Bouffier, oh no, that's back up to speed. That was just a slower corner. And actually, it's that hand I remembered first time through this stage earlier on. There was a couple of corners. I thought, oh, what's going on with that? No, it's just that they are so low on grip. You've really got to slow the car.
See, the size of the ruts there is quite dramatic. And the sump guard will be touching there when all the suspension travels use up. The sump guard will be hitting the floor, it'll be scrubbing the speed out of the car, it'll be trying to bump the car out of the ruts. You know, it's just a big fight from start to finish. Sometimes the impacts are so big that you think you've got it in gear, but it actually jumps into a neutral. You find a neutral, you shouldn't be able to do it, but sometimes it actually happens just for a split second when you need to get on the accelerator, and dunk, it comes in.
I tell you what, the ruts are so deep, it looks like somebody's been tractor pulling down here. Kosciuszko comes across the line. And 13.7 back. How was he first time through? He was fifth through here this morning, and
made it to the end of the first day. How was it?
You can see I'm all dirty, full of mud, but okay, we finally reached the finish of day one. It was a very difficult day for us, but difficult day for everybody. We are happy to be on the finish of day one, and looking forward the next day.
Well, he did say after the first time through the stage as well, yeah, got mud everywhere, mud in the car, mud in the helmet.
I must admit, I expect a little bit more from Mikołajki Kosciuszko. He's a good driver. I did Junior World Championship with him last year, or maybe last year and a half. And in between me finishing Junior World Championship and him continuing, he had really good pace from time to time. And with it being his home rally, I expect him to go out there and do something special, and he just doesn't seem to be absolutely on it.
Well, he was 24 seconds off the fastest time first through stage.
That's a stonker.
That's very good, blimey, 16:13. Bouffier doesn't appear to have noticed it was getting darker.
That's only 12 seconds slower than his time this morning.
Yep, after 80 odd cars through the stage.
Okay, 10 seconds slower than his time this morning. Great time.
That's not bad, over 25 kilometres.
That's a great time.
That's impressive stuff.
Brian, incredible speed through there. You really want to win this rally, huh?
Yes, all is okay. And, well, you know, really tricky stage. I think I'm a bit lucky because 1.5 case before the end, I think I've got a drive shaft broken, so fortunately it happened here. Yes, very good.
How,
Compared to Jan, so very, very nice.
how are you finding the extra speed? Because the others have no grip.
You know, for sure the grip is not good, but, you know, I'm pushing and we could make a big difference. Okay, we have to wait the guy behind because I'm sure they will be quick.
I think he might be down talking his achievement. Very quick stuff indeed from Brian Bouffier, especially if he has had a drive shaft or something else let go towards the end of the stage.
We could just visibly see the difference, couldn't we, between the attack that Brian Bouffier had as opposed to Jan Kopecky, who was just in a bit of a cruise.
And 20, early 5 left plus over crest. Early 5 left plus over crest.
On board with Craig Breen now and Lara Van Est on the pace notes.
Well, here is Kubica. It's right front corner, isn't it?
Looks like, yeah. Looks like it's collapsed. Maybe a damper gone.
No,
Oh,
wheel's gone.
Wheel gone.
Right. Now, that hasn't fallen off of its own volition. Let's see if we can figure out why. Ditch. Rock.
Oh, rock. Yeah, rock or log.
Yeah. And that's the problem with cutting, as they call it, or ditch hooking in the old style, you know.
What was that just saying?
Yeah.
Drivers stick the co-driver side in just a little bit more. He's just paid the price.
I tell you what, those guys that were standing on the side of the road just there, a wheel will have come flying out towards them as well, so somebody will have that as a souvenir, guaranteed. And that's a real shame.
It is, yeah.
And again, you know, so much is down to experience in these conditions, isn't it? Not that you've done these stages before, but you've done some stages that will have, oh, right, okay, now, yeah, now I know what's going on. And with the change as well, from mud to sand to gravel to tarmac to, you know, everything thrown at you.
Fair play to him. He's not just going at walking pace with 3 wheels on his wagon. He's pushing on, but I'm just grimacing because I know exactly what that'll sound and feel like in the car. And, you know,
now
he's using it as a plough now
for him,
to keep him on the road.
The ruts are a godsend, aren't they? Because the sump guard is sitting on the high ground between, and 3 of the wheels are being directed along.
I'm grimacing because I'm just watching that sill getting eaten away, and you know, he wants to get to the the end of the stage. He's getting a car catching him here. Is this Craig Breen?
This is Craig, so this is really going to have...
No, Christoph
Horovicic. And that is going to have a major impact. And ironically, it's a fellow Pole who's in the way, and
it'll be very difficult for Robert to get out of the way of him as well, with only having 3 wheels.
Is, if he gets out of the way, he's got to somehow try and get back on as well.
And Christoph can't get too close to him as well because he's shooting so much dirt out the back.
This is where he's going to try and get out of the way.
Oh,
yeah, there you go.
Now.
Find those bits of runoff and try and follow them back on as well. You can see a lot of the later runners have just drifted along through there. So that's, what do you say, kind of 10 seconds maybe for Horovicic. He's lost a bit of ground there. Oh, around the hairpin, to the end of it.
Oh, he's got to get some grip. That's what I said about the car grounding out. He always kept it going just.
That's that last hairpin that was causing so much trouble before the flying finish.
I wish we could get it on board now because that engine is giving no mercy at the moment. It is getting everything.
Well, because now the other thing with a normally aspirated engine, cooling is one thing. With a turbocharged engine, cooling is an entirely different matter and far more vital, because the turbo itself is at 1,000 degrees or so. And
but if he manages to drag this car back to service, he's going to give his service crew an absolute mountain of work, because the stress the differentials are taking with all this extra work, the heat they created, it'll knock off all the preloads. So even if they just bolt the wheel on and manage to put the corner back on the car, there's a lot of work that's been created by just getting this car on 3 wheels to the end of the stage. I don't think he'll be able to put a wheel on the car to travel the road section.
What happened?
Yeah, Robert lose the front right wheel and I stay behind him. Not so long, but for sure we lose 10-15 seconds.
But sorry for the Robert, it's not nice for the rally like that. Yeah.
So Krzysztof Wojcicki comes out of the stage, losing a little bit of time, but as you say, Kubica, now you get to the end of the stage, everybody goes, yeah, he's made it to the end of the stage. Of course, he's now got to drive back to service. It's not going to be the same sort of problem that it would be if he was in the UK. Frankly, he will get a police escort because he's the next thing to God here in motorsport terms.
Royalty.
But it's still got to make it, and as you said, you know, it's one thing grinding it along mud and slime and all this kind of stuff. Now if he's out on tarmac, you're right, there's nothing to attach a wheel to. It is going to be nasty.
Robert, you've lost a wheel. What happened?
And in the fifth gear corner, we actually was braking into the left corner and we hit the stone.
And how far into the stage? You've gone a long way on 3 wheels.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do.
Despondent.
Yeah. Well, that's tough for Kubica. Meanwhile, here comes the Irish driver, Craig Breen.
Jeremy, talk us through that.
Yeah, I have a best feeling. I'm okay. The condition it will be very bad, but I hope tomorrow it will be better.
Thank you.
Well, Jeremy Hansen just finishing the stage, and his Peugeot Rally Academy teammate Craig Breen finished a couple of minutes in front of him. Well, not a couple of minutes, actually, probably only about a minute in front of him. He was saying to Neil that he picked up a front right puncture 12 kilometres into the stage, but he said it was so rutted you didn't really need wheels half the time, which is exactly what we saw with Kubica, who only had 3 wheels on his wagon.
Yeah, unfortunately, from what we saw from Robert's car, I don't think, I'm not going to say he won't, I don't think he'd be able to bolt the wheel back on that car because the upright was missing.
Yeah, not unless he's tying it to thin air.
Exactly, the upright was missing and the damper was missing, you know, the bottom arm was there, but that will be in some state after he drove it for that distance.
No, he's just going to have to load his co-driver onto the back left corner and drive on. Police escort or so. Breen Bouffier fastest, but look at that, Mikko Solovov in second place. That's a really good run through the stage in this Ford Fiesta regional rally car.
There. That was very good.
Excuse me?
The second quickest through there.
Yes, but you know, huge headache from the bumps. Wow. I don't feel my head.
And in Polish as well, please.
Fajnie się jedzie, tylko straszne podbicia, makabryczna kolejna.
That guy is an absolute gentleman. You should not discount him because of his age. He loves to be in amongst the action, and you have to remember, before he came to this stage, he was ahead of Craig Breen.
Yep.
Genuinely ahead of Craig Breen. He's just posted second fastest time.
That's a very impressive time indeed. And again, you know, the experience pays off so often, doesn't it? You know, you've not so much this stage because this is new to everybody today, but you've had an experience of mixed conditions similar to that, and you know how to react to them. And that's what Kubica is learning all the time, what Craig is still learning all the time as a relatively young rally driver. Oh, I spy with my little eye someone who's been off backwards.
Martin Kango. We're just on board there with the man of the moment, weren't we? You know, Katanovic, he is the local man of the moment, if we like, because there's so much attention on this rally because of Robert Kubica coming and doing it. He's going to end up with a bit of status after this event if he can get to the finish on the podium. He's third at the moment. He's held on to second for most of the day. He had a stall in one of the previous stages and lost 5 seconds. He actually said that, he said, I'm not bothered. He said, we're still here.
Yeah.
You know, so he's having fun, he's enjoying it. It's a psychological mentality, isn't it? If you just get on with it, what you're faced with, and just do the best you can, instead of thinking, well, is it worse for me? Is it better for me? Just get on and drive what's in front of you.
And then again, one of the great things about rallying is it is you versus the stage. Nobody else can have you off. Nobody else is going to pass you or block you or hold you up, unless obviously they have a problem. You know, it is an individual sport. You just happen to be measured against everybody else.
Absolutely, and we should make point that Martin Kango has actually set a fastest time today and a second fastest time, so he's obviously had a little bit of bother whether it was in this stage or the one previous, but you know, he's a young Estonian guy, and he's
done both ends.
Yeah, a bit of damage front left, and and rear ends. It's,
yeah, he's had a bit of a spin.
But he's a young Estonian guy, and he's been around a little while driving R3 Honda Civics on the European Championship and the IRC, as it was formerly known. And see how badly dug out that corner is there. It's going to be horrendous in a two-wheel drive car.
And yeah, he was saying earlier on, car's brand new to him. This is one of the R5 Ford Fiestas that Malcolm Wilson's M Sport team are developing, and you know, a very different handful to a front-wheel drive car. You know, lots more grip, lots more power, and a different way of driving it. But like you say, second quickest and an overall fastest stage time, and clearly here, not hanging around despite his little moment either.
He's had good grounding. I always believe if you're going to go anywhere in rallying, you need to start with an underpowered front-wheel drive car. It teaches you so many good habits. But obviously he's lost a dramatic amount of time here.
Well, 8th place, 1 minute 43.9 back, and that will drop him down the order. But again, that's why they call it a flying finish. He's still got his foot buried in the carpet, hasn't he?
That was Kitanovic following over the flying finish there.
Was indeed, and right behind him, and they're at a 2-minute interval.
Damage to the front and rear. What happened?
In one junction, there was deep lines, and just the electrical power steering through the steering in the wrong position, and we just went to the trees with maybe 20 kilometers per hour or even less.
And you managed to get back on the road, but you lost a lot of time.
But we also hit some tree with the rear of the car, because we were reversing, but we will see.
Thank you.
Reversed it into the trees. Oops.
It sounds a really bizarre thing to say, that the steering through the car off the road.
Very happy with that.
Yeah, it was a nice stage. Very fast, very bumpy. We are very happy. I think we win this stage. It's incredible. We are in this car first time. I mean, yesterday it was first time, yeah? Yeah, I'm learning. We are learning, yeah? Still really learning, but it's fantastic.
Well, you're fastest through that stage, but there's been punctures and crashes in front of you. How did you do it so quick and safe?
Excuse me?
How was it so good?
Everything is so good.
And a quick word in Polish, please.
Było bardzo szybko, bardzo podbijający odcinek specjalny, dużo błota. Jesteśmy zadowoleni pierwszy raz tym samochodem i wygraliśmy odcinek specjalny. Fantastyczna sprawa. Cieszę się bardzo.
Mentality, isn't it?
It is a mentality. You know, like I said earlier, you know, some guys are coming out going, oh, that was a nightmare, and a lot of these guys are coming out going, oh, it was a nightmare, but it was so much fun. And he's one of those.
He's doing a great job.
He is indeed. Dominicus Budvilas won the last round of the Lithuanian Rally Championship just a couple of weeks ago, so coming in here on a high, and he probably needed to be as well, with the shorter Citroens and Fords struggling to find enough room to get sideways here. This Mitsubishi is a bit of a handful.
40 junction.
On board with Toshihiro Arai, with his Kiwi co-driver, Aussie co-driver, oh god, there's a classical error, Aussie co-driver, Tony McLaughlin alongside him. Which will be a light in a moment. And we're just listening during, while you're on commercial, to the sound of the engine. Toshi again with the blow-off valve over the finish line. But again, the only car that's got old-school wastegate chatter.
I think he likes that stage.
I'm not sure he's convinced yet.
22. Yeah, 22.2.
Toshi, you made it to the end of day one of ERC Rally Poland, but how was that stage?
Yeah, so difficult this road. So if in fine weather, I think very, very good condition, but in the wet, it's so difficult. Yeah, but I'm enjoy. Yeah.
And can you describe for us what it's like to tackle the stages, the lack of grip and the mud?
Yeah. Very difficult because some places like this, some places completely mud, no grip at all, so cannot find how grip in after that, like this bend or something like that. So that is very, very difficult.
But you must be happy to get to the end. No repeat of your engine problem from earlier.
Yeah, now no problem, so I hope not.
See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So Toshiarai in the battle with Dominikas Butvilas at the head of the R4 class, but the fastest man on the stage is Kotanovic for Poland. Brian Bouffier second, 5.7 behind, will retain the overnight lead, and Mikol Solovov, the veteran Polish rally driver, third quickest. That's an epic pace from him, ahead of Jan Kopecky and Michał Horowczyk in fifth place. And the name that's missing from the top 5 or 6 is going to be that of Robert Kubica, who tore a wheel off. Craig Breen, a minute and 12 behind after picking up a puncture 12 kilometres at halfway through the stage. And Guy Wilkes, you know, that effectively is giving him 3-wheel drive, so that's got to knock a hole in your speed.
Absolutely. Incident packed stage, wasn't it? You know, it's okay, it's never nice to see big problems. Okay, you know, we want people to be fast and see cars moving all the time, but lots of things to talk about and see.
I think it's the hardest stage what I've ever seen, but it's cool.
I think that sums it up, doesn't it?
Could you explain about that stage and the whole day in Polish, please?
This stage was very slippery, like first time. All stages was very good, but this stage is slippery. I don't know how to say, but
you can tell us in Polish, please.
Polish is very good. A lot of people.
No. Do you speak Polish?
No, I don't speak Polish. Only Russian or English.
I was wondering how long for the penny to drop with Neil then. I was thinking he's going to struggle with the Polish version there.
He was dragged in very quickly, unexpectedly, to grab a quick word with Vasily Gryazin, who is Russian, as his co-driver Dmitry Chumak. So then, the overnight lead for Brian Bouffier by 16.8 seconds from Kotanovic. Solovov moves up to third with a great run through the final test today. Kopecky fourth, and he'll be happy to kind of hold around there and wait to see what transpires tomorrow. Horowczyk in fifth position and 1:46 behind, so a podium will be a big achievement if he can somehow rescue one tomorrow. Kosciuszko in sixth and Craig Breen in seventh place. That loss of over a minute and a half on that stage takes him out of contention effectively. And Robert Kubica, well, we'll have to wait and see how long it takes him to get back to service. Undoubtedly the crew will be able to rebuild the car from the floor up, and they will need to, certainly on that right front corner. Well, join us tomorrow, 10 o'clock local time, 9 AM British summer time. Guy Wilkes and me, Martin Haven, for the next live stage, stage 10 on Rally Poland 2013. Until then, have a very good evening.